Sex education is not taboo. In Malaysian culture, the word sex is very much taboo, and many people worry that mentioning it will excessively push young children to do it for themselves. Cultural taboos prevent many Asian parents from talking about sex to their children. However, in actuality, pornography websites and kids peer are constantly exposing kids to sexual content. Trust me, sex education should be introduced to children at an early stage. Sex education is very important for children because it's just not about sex, but it includes how the children can react if they get the sexual harassment, what part of the body cannot be touched, family law act, and sexual transmission disease, STDs, and many more about sex education background. And do we know that sex education brings a lot of benefit to the children, especially in this new era, which is sex and pornography is very wide and very easy to access on online platform. Being children are the phase where they are learning and getting to know the environment. People say, bend the bamboo, let it be from the bamboo shoots. From this phase, children, we should teach them about the sex education, such as what they can do and they cannot do. Because in this phase, they are easier to apply something compared to adolescent. It is never too early to have sex conversation with your kids. Your child can learn that sex and sexuality are normal components of life if you start talking to them about them when they are young. Early interactions with your child that are open and honest might make later conversations simpler. Additionally, these early interactions help children set themselves up for later healthier decisions around sex. The most important early message is that you can provide your child with open, honest, and trustworthy knowledge, and that they should not be afraid or ashamed to question you about sex and sexuality. Children lack the maturity to make difficult decisions on their own. They require education and direction. These difficulties can be made more prominent through sexual education. If they had any information, they might be able to speak up about their options. By introducing sex education to children, we can arm them with the information. Comprehensive sex education places a strong focus on abstinence as the best method to prevent STDs and unplanned pregnancies. Through the training of interpersonal and communication skills, it also assists children in examining their own views, desires, and alternatives. You can see that educating someone to be a virgin is not the goal of sexual education, or encouraging children to have sex at a young age. My point is that with the right education, we can likewise reduce the prevalence of common sex-related problems. Children need to be exposed to sex education in order to get accurate information about sex and be able to avoid various things that we want to avoid. For instance, we should be introduced about the STDs from sex if we don't have unprotected sex, such as using condom and always exchanging partners. There are many infections or diseases that caused by promiscuity and unprotected sex, condoms, such as hepatitis B, hepatitis C, gonorrhea, chlamydia, genital herpes, HIV, and HPV. In additional information, the numbers of HIV patients or PLHIV, people living with HIV, are commonly caused by unprotected sex. Furthermore, we can see that the case of underage marriage in our beloved country, Malaysia. According to UNICEF, United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, in Malaysia, at least 1,500 children marry every year as of 2018. This issue is very sad for me because a child should enjoy its life as a child and not as a husband or wife. With sex education, they could be able to refuse the marriage if they so choose because there is a law to protect them from the underage marriage. In order to combat social issues like sexual grooming, teenage pregnancies, child marriage, and online and offline sexual violence, comprehensive and reliable sex education is required in schools, according to Dr. Rashid Mustafa Sawar, a special representative to Brunei Darussalam and a representative for UNICEF, United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund in Malaysia. Many things can be eradicated and avoided, such as rape. They know which parts of the body should not be touched. Condom use is very important if exposed to sex, if we introduce this sex education to the children. For instance, we can see that MOH announced in December 2020, according to Sinar Harian, the number of HIV cases in the country saw a 50% drop in cases at the end of 2019 compared to the highest number of 6,978 cases in 2002. But up to 90% of all cases of HIV infection in the nation from 2009 to 2018 were brought on by risky sexual behavior. I believe that we introduce sex education at an early stage, we can further reduce cases of HIV through sex because they know how to practice safe sex, which is using condom and use the protection. In conclusion, sex education is not promoting sex from an early age. It's about education. We should be thinking about other factors when it comes to sex rather than an actual act of the sex. Sexuality is not just about sex, it's also the way your child feels about their developing body. Due to the idea that sex education simply instructs children on how to engage in sexual activity, many conversations about it have led some to believe that it merely undermines people's morality. They must realize that contraception is not only necessary, especially when parents are not present, for preventing sexual transmitted illness, teenage pregnancies, and other sex-related issues, but also because it teaches children the difference between right and wrong, and it is how your child understands and expresses feelings of intimacy, attraction, and affection for others, and how your child develops and maintains respectful relationships. Thank you.